the heck street shark was that? Oh crap. What's going on there, YouTube? This is SCL0320 representing JVS. I'm here for a brand new Flash review. This episode is really interesting. It surrounds a newcomer. This is going to be the new Firestorm with Professor Stein. It surrounds like the appearance of the last episode of Harrison Wells, and as well as what's going on with the dynamics between Iris, her mother, and then Joe. This episode played on all those things in a really strong way. So I guess go ahead into it. This is going to be spoiler filled, just to let y'all know. So I apologize that there will be spoilers, but I'm just going to go ahead and go into it. So my first thought of looking at this episode, what did I give it as far as a rating? I give it a 9, only because the last few seconds totally threw me off. Because most of the episode, a lot of people will say it felt really cheesy. The first part of the episode where it actually had like the characters, the newcomer that's gonna be actually the new Firestorm, Jackson. It had him in the football outfit, and he was going, and you could tell like he's got something about him that wants to be able to help, and not just that, his understanding and comprehension of like the team is more than himself. I was like, okay, these are things to aspire to that makes the grounds of a good hero. Not just that, I was thinking to myself, Victor Stone. That's all I was thinking of. I was like, this is pretty awesome, you know. And then like he got hit, and I was like, this all clicks why they're gonna, you know, potentially make him be a candidate. But what ends up happening is that Professor Stein is progressively getting worse, and they know that they have to find some kind of means of being able to stabilize him. I always told y'all, I was like, Professor Stein is going to become unstable. I think Joe alluded to it last week when I wasn't able to talk about it. Joe did an awesome job with his reaction, but I really knew that Stein was not going to be able to make it. And so that's one of the things I loved about the last episode. But in this one, like they had to stabilize him with a cane that actually had like the energy to be able to move through his body to be able to stabilize him as best they could, but it was only basically grasping at straws. So they had like two prime candidates. They had Jackson, and then they had this guy named Hewitt. Now Hewitt was a prestiged geneticist, and he did all these different things, and like Caitlin was just all gung-ho about like he's the perfect candidate, quote unquote. I don't necessarily like that. Because it made Caitlin come across as like really cheeky and arrogant, and not just that. I mean, not racially. I don't think it was a kind of a racial thing, because I mean both men were African American, but it was like you can't judge a book by its cover. You don't know either one of these people, and I understand you're shooting for time, but it was like she was so pressed that she introduced this man to their world, brought him to the freaking compound, showed him the flash suit and all this kind of stuff. I was like, what are they thinking? And while Stein and Barry were trying to go and interact with Jax and trying to get a feel of him, he was working in kind of like a workshop where he was working with cars, and he really wasn't too pressed to do it. Like they even really explained it to him, and he was just like, no. And what I liked about his character, there were a lot of cheesiness. I'll talk about the cheesiness in a little bit, but I love the fact that you get an explanation to where he had got after that point, because it looked like this dude had it all, you know. You find out later on, like I said, these are full spoilers, that he tore his ACL. He couldn't go to college because they couldn't afford it. They didn't have the money to it, and that scholarship was his everything. Even though he had a grade point average, like he was all banking on that to provide for everything, and that was his one hope. And Caitlin had kind of alluded to him, is that even though, because later on he decides he wants to truly try to help them, even though that what he had happened to him, this is still an opportunity that this was exchanged out for him to do the greater good. And I did like that about his story arc. The thing that I didn't like is the person Hewitt. Like, not just the fact that he was an arrogant butthole that like was power hungry and just felt as though this was his birthright to have this. It came off really trashy and cheesy. I would have rather them made him be like, I don't know, just primed out evil, period. Like don't have him come up with this facade like he's trying to grasp the straw because he believes that he wants to be this kind of flawed villain. It's almost like he kind of became like this symbiote kind of thing, and I didn't like that. I was like, this dude is not Venom. He's not anything that's too pressed. Not just that, what I really disliked about the episode was his CG. His CG was terrible, y'all. Like, I mean, this if I really think about CG, I might have to lower the rating down to an 8, to be quite honest with you, because his CG for his powers, that it was hybrid between like lightning and fire, it didn't click. I mean, even like the fight sequence, it made Jackson's like Firestorm powers, when they finally do merge and it does work out, it made like the whole fight seem really cheesy, man. Like even like Barry interacting with this guy that's like supposed to have all this lightning. Like I think what I loved about when Barry was fighting against the guy that was made of gas, like Barry, it was vulnerable to it. Like it was a real challenge, and he didn't know what was gonna happen, and the dude could feel everywhere. This guy, the way his powers were, it's not appealing. I mean, they should have chosen somebody else. Or they should have chosen the person that really messed with Barry towards the end of this episode. Because I was waiting for it. I was like, well, why is Harrison Wells here? Like, somebody had found, like, that he went through the lab. I forgot her name. Because she had kind of helped him out before. And basically said, like, Harrison Wells is alive. And not just that, Joe knew. And the partner, she is getting so cute. Like, I really do like her character. She had basically told Barry, like, we've heard mentions of a person that was a shark creature, like a man shark, and not just that, like that there was something else he was working with Joe, but she couldn't tell him. And Joe was basically telling her that, okay, we know that Harrison Wells is alive. Do not tell Barry by any consequence. And that was smart thinking. I was really good thinking on his part, because what would that do to Barry's psyche? Barry's just now trying to recover. One of the biggest things I loved about this episode is the talk that Barry and Joe have. Like, Joe, for me, he's a good dad, man. I love this guy. Like, how he handles Iris and how he handles Barry are so different, but it's so much love that's pushed into it. When he was talking to Barry about him progressively moving on, I think that he would love that for Barry to be with Iris. I think he really would, but he's not going to sacrifice that thought for Barry's own happiness and progression if Iris is not where she needs to be. And he's basically telling Barry, he's like, there's times where you have to really kind of move on. And that knowledge that he gives to Barry resonates with. He talks to Caitlin about the progression, that why is it that you were so hard on Jax, because she was really like standoffish against him. Like, she was really offensive and pushing him and doing all this kind of stuff. And Barry set her straight with telling her that it's not about the fact that you think that he can't do it. It's your comparison to Ronnie. You're thinking of him as Ronnie. And that, I really love those dialogue points about this episode, because it was really things that were coming from Joe on both ends that were really helping him, because a bombshell hit Iris. And that's one of the biggest things I want to talk about, is the fact that her mother has McGregor syndrome. And I mean, only last time I heard of McGregor syndrome was freaking when Alfred had it in Batman and Robin. Don't even ask me why I know that, because I'm a huge Batman fan. But either way, like, it can kill somebody. Like, there's no recovering from that, nor have there been any stages where, unless it's the first 2 stages, that they can even come back from. So her mom's dying. That was the bombshell. But before that even happened, she basically told her mom told her, like, like, I want to meet you on, she said, I don't want to know you. I don't care about you. For the last 20 years, you've been vacant. I don't care nothing. Part your ways. I love you. Thank you for coming, but you're not my mom. Basically, I was like, dang. That was really heartfelt. It was really heavy. Like, I didn't expect that, I think that in the first season, there was so much weight behind with Barry and his emotion with his dad and with everything that happened, that now it's all about really Iris's emotion in this season. I like that about it. Because even with the knowledge about her mother, one huge spoiler that came up is that Iris said that I was about to forgive you, and basically Joe told her, like, look, it's up to you if you want to know your mom, that's fine. And she goes back to her, she talks to her, but then she was like, I've been investigating you, and I decided I don't want to know you even more now because of what you still hiding and lying about. She basically alluded to that her mom has a son. This is the thing, that I don't believe it's her mom's son. I believe that probably it is, I don't know. I'm trying to think how it would work, that it would be Iris's like nephew. I really don't know how it's going to end up pulling out, because they've already said that Wally West is going to be in this series, but Wally West is supposed to be the nephew of Iris West. So I don't know how they're going to do that. They could just kind of blend the merging thing with, like, literally Iris's brother will be Wally West. I mean, that's fine. I don't have a real problem with that. Not just that, because he's probably not with the same biological dad. So that's going to be a lot of weight. But, like, to hear that, as soon as she said son, I was thinking Wally West, Wally West, Wally West. So we'll see where we go with that. See what happens with that. It's really heartfelt, but the last few seconds, you find Harrison Wells and he saves Barry Allen from this freaking huge, like, shark monster. Like, you know the street sharks? This motherfucker was the king shark. This dude had Barry like this. I was like, wait, I know this ain't, you know, like, not Zod, oh my gosh. Grodd. I was like, no, it wasn't Grodd. And then all of a sudden, like, oh my God, it's a freaking huge CG shark. It threw me so off, y'all. I was like, wow, that was so cool. It wasn't even cheesy. It was just like, I've been sitting here by Zod. And I was like, I'm sorry, I was sitting here by Zoom. I was like, dude, somebody needs to save him, because like, the old girl, she was sitting there shooting out. And like I said, like, that's so cute between their relationship. I still am pulling for them. I'm still pulling for Iris and Barry though. And even he's trying to move on. He's okay with moving on. I think that Iris is really going to need him through this next stages that are about to come. So I don't know. But either way, the way that Harrison saved Barry from that big shark creature, that street shark, that did it in for me. Like, that redeemed the cheesiness of the CG that happened with Hewitt. And it put in moderation everything that kind of transpired. So we'll see where it happens next episode. Hopefully you enjoyed my review for it. Like I said, I don't know whether to give it an 8 or a 9. I probably keep it at like a 8.2. I'll give it an 8.2 just because the CG was so CG, it was so cheesy, and certain parts were just really cheesy. But I'll leave it at 8.5. I enjoyed the episode. I didn't have any real problems with it. Other than the CG and that cheesiness. So hopefully you enjoyed my review. This is SEL0320 signing out. JVS, we got more stuff coming y'all's way. Look for our Arrow review tomorrow, and then we got something else coming on Friday. Oh, I can't tell y'all about it. All right, later y'all. Peace.